Good morning. It's Tuesday, October 29th, and you're listening to Red Sea Roundup. I'm your host, Megan Silas. I have the pleasure of having the lovely Pam Marvin in the studio with me today to share the hosting duties. Good morning, Pam.
Good morning, Megan.
Great to have you here.
Thanks.
Later in the show, Patty Blazik and Jennifer Peltier from St. Joseph's School will be here to chat with us about the school and the value of Catholic education. The show obviously wouldn't be the same if we didn't have Dennis Maka here running the production board. Howdy, Dennis.
Good morning, Megan and Pam.
Good morning.
So last week was a really busy week for us here at Red Sea, and I know Dennis is maybe just finally crawling out of the fog that he was in this weekend after all the events last week. So, Dennis, now that you've had a little time to rest, what stands out from last week's benefit and youth event for you?
You know, I was very impressed with our attendance, and the youth event had over 200 people. It's like 215 what I counted for youth and their family members and volunteers that were, a lot of them from the university here at Texas A&M. And we just had a remarkable event with the youth. I saw and heard of multiple youth that kind of had to be dragged there. But they were pretty fired up when they left, and they were very excited. So that was really nice. The benefit dinner was a very good time. It's always great to see a large group of Catholics coming together to celebrate what's everything beautiful about their Catholicism. And Tim Staples has just some way of just bringing out the evangelical nature of all of us. And so the joy was definitely in the room, and it wasn't just the beer that was in the room.
Yeah,
it was because I can attest that only half the beer that we had there was drunk. And so it was, people drank in moderation and enjoyed a very nice, wonderful evening to celebrate both being Catholic and being fans of Red Sea Catholic Radio. So it was very nice.
Yeah, it's just a beautiful atmosphere in there, and I enjoyed it so much. And I do want to thank Collaborative Catholic Formation Ministries for doing the real lion's share of the planning for the youth event. It really went off great, and I know of several kids who just said that they had an awesome time, and I think anything that fires up our youth is a worthwhile endeavor for sure.
And one neat thing, too, is Patrick Coffin came here last year and told Tim Staples, there's something about Aggie Land. And Tim's like, okay, yeah, I travel all over the place, but he's like, there's something about Aggie Land, and I can't wait for you to see it. And it was great to see Tim Staples come here, and we told him about everything that's going on, both from here at the St. Mary's Catholic Center to what's going on with Red Sea Catholic Radio and other things, and to literally see his jaw drop, like, wow. There's something going on here in Aggie Land. So,
right.
Yeah, we told you, So, but there is. The Holy Spirit is very strong in our community, and it was very evident there at our benefit dinner on Thursday night.
Well, when I dropped Tim off after the benefit dinner, the last thing I said to him was, well, have we convinced you to move Catholic Answers here to Aggie Land?
We're trying.
He didn't give an absolute affirmative, but he certainly didn't say heck no. So we'll keep working on those folks, because it's sure heck of a lot cheaper here in College Station, and we would be blessed to have them.
Yeah, we were on the way to the airport on Friday. We were talking to, how big is your house and what's its value? And then we were trying to say, oh, well, you could buy 4 times the size of a house here. So it was kind of funny. We were talking about the cost of living where they're at, but yeah, they've got 45 employees at Catholic Answers, so I don't think they're going to be moving anytime soon.
Where are they? Are they in San Diego?
San Diego.
They are San Diego, yeah.
Well, I guess we can't try to convince them with our weather. I think they definitely have us trumped there. But
yeah, but it was a beautiful event, both nights, the Wednesday night youth event and the Thursday night benefit. And yes, I actually, for the first time in probably a couple months, got 8 hours of sleep from Sunday into Monday. So that was very refreshing.
Well, great. And well, if any of you have any suggestions of speakers you'd like to hear or themes you'd like to have for next year's benefit.
Don't tell me for 2 weeks.
Yeah, but
I don't want to know for 2 weeks.
Right. In 2 weeks, though, we'll take your suggestions. But anyway, let's talk about what's going on around the parishes this week. First, I want to remind everyone that Friday, November 1st, is a holy day of obligation. We will be celebrating All Saints' Day. So be sure to check the times that your parish will be celebrating Mass for this joyous feast day. So, Pam?
Yeah, and after the 6 p.m. All Saints Mass at St. Thomas Aquinas, they will be hosting a dinner and a party to celebrate our holy saints. There will be food and saint presentations and games. Saint costumes are encouraged both at the Mass and for the party, so come dressed to venerate.
Very close.
Now, then we can join our Catholic Aggies on Friday, November 1st at 8:30 p.m. here in College Station for Dark 30, the monthly First Friday Holy Hour dedicated to the Sacred Heart of Jesus. During Dark 30 Vespers, evening prayer of the Liturgy of the Hours, of course, is prayed together along with some silent prayer time and much more. After the Dark 30, they have Coffee House Social in the lobby of the Student Center.
Okay, we actually have a call coming in. We have Chris on the line calling from College Station. I believe he's actually calling from St. Thomas Aquinas.
Hello, Chris. Are you there?
Yes, hello.
Hi, Chris. This is Chris Barrer, right?
Yes.
Okay, so Chris Barrer, the music director at St. Thomas Aquinas. And what are you calling to tell us about today?
Well, we have a special event on Saturday morning, which is All Souls Day, the commemoration of all the faithful departed. And we're having a Latin ordinary form Mass offered by our very own Father Curtis. And the Brazos Valley Schola Cantorum is going to be there also to be able to chant all the Mass propers and ordinaries.
So could you just tell us a little bit about what the Thomas Aquinas Schola is?
Sure, it's the Brazos Valley Schola.
Oh, sorry, excuse me.
That's okay. And it's a men's chant group that basically sings Gregorian chant and similar other styles of chant and sacred polyphony and music written specifically for the Catholic liturgy of the Mass.
Okay, and you said that it's a Latin Mass in the ordinary form. So what exactly does that mean?
That is correct. What we have nowadays is what's called the ordinary form. That's the Mass that we all know today, and of course usually it's said in the vernacular, and of course here in this country in English, that we all go to every Sunday or even during the week, a daily Mass. Before Vatican II, of course, Mass was entirely said in Latin, but the structure of the liturgy was quite a bit different than it is now, and Vatican II sort of reformed that structure a little bit. So what we have now is the option to celebrate the Vatican II Mass that we know now, but we can celebrate it in Latin rather than in English. So the entire thing can be done in Latin or, of course, English. And the choice that we make today usually is, of course, the vernacular English. But what we're going to be able to do on Saturday is have the entire Mass chanted in Latin.
Hey, Chris, this is Pam. How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
Well, I'm planning on being there on Saturday morning, so I want to be really prepared because, I kind of like to participate as much as I can. Are y'all going to have some type of guide for us to go along with there? Or how should I prepare
Absolutely.
For this?
We will have the order of the Mass, and it contains the chants of the people in Latin, because the Schola will be leading those in Latin. Awesome. But it also has an English translation. Although I would bet that most people already will be able to follow it based on just having attended Mass in English for so long. It's going to be follow the same format that everyone's pretty much used to.
So the entire Mass will be in Latin. Now there'll be a regular homily as well.
Of course, the homily will be in English.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's good.
The readings will be in English.
Oh, okay.
So that we do use the vernacular there. But the prayers of the Mass, that's the important distinction. The prayers of the Mass, which are the same all over the world, whatever Mass you go to in whatever country, are going to be in Latin. And many of us are already familiar with some of these simple ones, like the Agnus Dei, the Lamb of God.
Right.
We use that text quite a bit in Latin. And then the Sanctus, the Holy, 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 and other things like that.
Yeah, on Sunday, Father Curtis was talking about the inspiration behind this, which I thought was just lovely. He was in Rome this summer, and he was at one of these masses and just felt it was so beautiful, and he was so inspired. He thought, what can I do to bring this back to College Station? So I personally am really looking forward to it. I've never been a part of something like this. So I will sacrifice at 8 a.m. Saturday morning to be there. I plan on being there.
So, Chris, do you think if this is well attended and there's real positive feedback, that this might be something that could be done, on a repeated basis?
Yeah, I don't see why not. I think it would be a great thing to add to the Mass schedule on a semi-regular basis here in the area. Certainly, it's sort of the Mass that the Fathers of Vatican II envisioned They didn't really envision that we would go strictly, completely all to the vernacular. They wanted to keep the Latin language alive inside the Mass, and that we would sing and pray in the universal language of the church, and that the parts, that people really needed to understand that it changed regularly, like the readings, should then be in the vernacular. But the Mass itself, they envisioned staying in Latin. So this is a great thing that we have that we're offering here.
Right. It really is a beautiful opportunity to do two things: to get really in touch with the fact that this truly is a universal church, and also get in touch with just the deep history that exists within it as well. I think that, when you hear that Latin, there is something compelling about it, something that roots you in what the traditions of the church really are. So I think that if people do come, that they will really be moved by it, and I encourage them to do it. Chris, thanks so much for calling in, and we thank you for being involved in planning this.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thank you so much for listening.
All right. Take care.
All right. Bye-bye.
All right. So, again, we want to encourage you to head over to St. Thomas Aquinas on Saturday, November 2nd for the Feast of All Souls at 8 a.m. to experience this really unique Mass here that will be in Latin. So also on November 2nd, being All Souls Day, there is going to be an afternoon of reflection, which is held at the San Salvador Mission Church on Highway 50. The reflection will begin at 3 p.m. with the Chaplet of Divine Mercy and conclude with the Holy Sacrifice of the Mass at 7. The formal reflection will be given by Deacon Ellis Abraham. He will be discussing the teachings of the Church on purgatory, our responsibilities towards helping the release of the holy souls, and how the holy souls can intercede for us. So the afternoon will include a light supper before Mass, and if you're interested in joining them, please RSVP to Judy Como. You can reach her at 979-412-5314. Again, that's 979-412-5314.
And let's move it on over to St. Anthony's at this Sunday, November the 3rd. They will host their annual Rosary and Blessing of the Graves at Mount Calvary Cemetery at 11:30 a.m., followed by a traditional potluck lunch in the Malinowski Center. For more information and to RSVP, contact the parish office by Thursday, October 31st at noon. Also, over at St. Joseph's, they will be having a Rosary and Blessing of the Grave services on Sunday, November 3rd. And this will take place at 1 p.m. at Mount Calvary Cemetery, followed by the Bryan City Cemetery, and 2 p.m. at the Smetana Cemetery, followed by Mount Calvary at Smetana. There's quite a few of them.
Smetana, yeah, that's a tough one to say.
3 of them there. So it's the Mount Calvary, the Bryan City, Smetana Cemetery, and Mount Calvary's Smetana. Okay,
right,
got it. So 4, actually.
So pretty much...
They're busy. Father John's going to be busy that day.
Sunday, if you go out to a cemetery, there's bound to be some Catholics hanging around.
Excellent.
Well, that's about concludes what's going on in the parishes. What I did want to touch on before we're going to talk a little bit more just about the history of All Saints Day, because there's sort of an interesting history there. I did want to mention that yesterday we did hear in the news that a federal district court judge ruled that the recently signed Texas law that requires abortion doctors to have admitting privileges at a nearby hospital violates the rights of those doctors and the reasonable access to abortion. This is definitely a bit of a setback. I know we were all really excited when this law was signed, and now I will say that it didn't strike down the entire law, but some of the elements that were really instrumental in getting Planned Parenthoods closed, because doctors were not willing to go through the hoops to get admitting privileges, it really did have a big impact. But unfortunately, the State Attorney General, Greg Abbott, has already filed an emergency appeal in the Circuit Court, the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals, which is in New Orleans. So I did want to mention it just so that we could have this on your prayer list to continue to pray for the change of our culture, that we would move towards culture of life, and that in Texas, particularly, that this law that was passed that did really do a lot in order to get our Planned Parenthood closed,
Absolutely.
right, and Brian, that this law would be upheld in the appeal court.
And I just want to remind everybody, we are a people of hope.
Absolutely.
So keep the faith and keep the hope going.
So yeah. Just when you think you won a battle, there's another one pops up. So always be ready.
Right.
Always be ready. So I wanted to give a little history lesson about All Saints Day because I think, this week sometimes, certainly within the nation, we focus a lot more on Halloween than we do on All Saints. And I'm not sure that everybody out there really knows the history of where All Saints came from. So I did a little research, Pam, and I wanted to share it with everyone. So the feast was instituted to honor all the saints, known and unknown, according to Pope Urban IV, and to supply any deficiencies in the faithful celebration of the saints' feast during the year. So I know that we're not always like, every feast day that comes along all through the year, we're maybe properly recognizing those saints, so
this is the culmination, so
exactly.
Make sure we get
it's
it.
Just
okay.
Really, really hit it hard that we appreciate these holy people. But in the early days of Christianity, Christians were accustomed to solemnize the anniversary of a martyr's death for Christ at the place of the martyrdom. In the 4th century, neighboring dioceses began to interchange feasts, to transfer relics, to divide them, and to join in a common feast. So, a lot of times in the church, especially because things back then, there wasn't a lot of ability to have in contact with each other. Saints would be recognized within a region because that's where they knew about them. And there wasn't a formal canonization process early in the church. So, saints became kind of regional, but even early on, as early as the 4th century, they started to kind of share their saints and join together.
Celebrate.
Right, to celebrate. But at the time of the persecution of Diocletian, the number of martyrs became so great that a separate day could not be assigned to each. But the church, feeling that every martyr should be venerated, appointed a common day for all. And we find the first trace of this in the city of Antioch, where on the Sunday after Pentecost, they would celebrate the martyrs. And we also find mention of the common day in sermons, which took place in the late 300s and the early 400s. And All Saints' Day actually continues to be celebrated on the first Sunday after Pentecost in the Eastern Church.
Wow.
So our Eastern brothers and sisters will not be celebrating All Saints today. They'll be waiting until the spring to do that.
All right.
But so at first on this day, only the martyrs and St. John the Baptist were honored by a special day. But other saints were added gradually, and it increased in number when a regular process of canonization was established. In the Western Church, Gregory III consecrated a chapel in the Basilica of St. Peter to all the saints and fixed the anniversary November 1st. So that was during the mid-700s that happened, where November 1st became the date. And then Gregory IV in the mid-800s extended the celebration on November 1st to the entire church. And the vigil actually seems to have been part of the celebration of the feast from the very beginning. So the vigil of All Saints' Day is Halloween,
yes.
All Hallows Eve.
That's right.
So,
well, the one thing I like about that you said in this history, Megan, that I like to tell my kids, that you says all of the saints known and unknown.
Right. Yeah. I actually had this discussion with my kids not too long ago. My little guy who's 6, Robbie, he asked me, well, how many saints are there? And I was like, okay, well, there's really kind of 2 answers to that question. There's the number of saints that the church has officially recognized. So there's that number. But then there's also the number of all the folks who've died and gone to heaven and are with our Lord and are enjoying the beatific vision that we don't know their names. And that's certainly the much bigger number than the number of the ones that we recognize by name.
So that's what reminds me of Patrick Coffin. It says, go be a saint. What else is there?
Exactly. So I think on All Saints' Day, get out there, get to your churches. It is a day of holy obligation. If you want to go to the Vigil Mass, they're on Halloween. I know that pretty much all the churches have a Vigil Mass that I know of. And if you want to find out times for those things, we have all the bulletins that you can get links from on our website, www.redsearadio.org. We're going to be going to a break pretty soon, but I did want to say that I unfortunately have been remiss in saying the phone number during the show. If you want to call to talk to the folks from St. Joseph's School, please do. We'll be back in about 3 minutes, but get your phone ready. The number is 855-683-7332. That's 85-LOVE-RED-C. And we will be back with the folks from St. Joseph's, Patty Blazik and Jennifer Peltier, in a few minutes. Welcome back. This is Red Sea Roundup. I'm your host, Megan Silas. I also have Pam Marvin in the studio with me doing some guest co-hosting. We're happy to have you back. And with us today, we have two lovely ladies from St. Joseph Catholic School with us. Before I have them introduce themselves, I do want to repeat the phone number if you'd like to call in to ask them a question or to just make a comment. We welcome your calls, and we are live, so please do call in. The phone number is 85-LOVE-RED-C, 855-683-7332 to call in to ask a question or make a comment. So if you ladies could please tell us your names and what your responsibilities are at St. Joseph School, I would appreciate it.
Schools.
Just a second. Repeat that. We had your mic off. Sorry about that.
Oh, no problem. I'm Jennifer Pelletier, and I'm the president of the school system, which now includes the Eagle's Nest. So we are 6 weeks old through 12th grade.
And I'm Patty Blazek, and I do advancement and marketing and communication for the school.
Welcome, ladies.
Well, the first question is, how long has St. Joseph School been around? How long have we had it here in our community?
Since 1894, actually. We're one of the oldest parishes in the state of Texas, which is really great. It gives us a perspective and a breadth of knowledge from the Brazos Valley that I don't think very many parishes can have wherever they are. So we've been really lucky. And not that Monsignor's been here since that long, but he has been here for 27 years. So, you know, that kind of stability is something that you can't put a price on that.
Well, since we did mention Monsignor John McCaffrey, he was supposed to join us today, but unfortunately at the last minute he wasn't able to. Right. So we hope he has a blessed day, and we'll get him on here some other time.
Right. He actually has 2 masses to say today. So he's with our little ones at 8:15 and then with our upper campus at 9:20, which is, you know, again, it's a real blessing. Our kids, there's a mass every day that our students are attending. And also this Friday, don't forget, is a holy day. And a First Friday. So we will have mass on Friday at the upper campus and the lower campus as well.
Which, if I believe, Jennifer, that's a new thing you started at the upper campus on the first Fridays, too, is it not?
Right. We started that this year. You know, Monsignor and I have talked for a long time about the Catholic identity at the school, and I couldn't be happier that our vision is the same, he and I. And he's such a great leader, and he really allows me to do what I think is best in the school. And he's always there for guidance and advice, and he'll step in and help with whatever. And the First Friday masses to me were very, very important. And you know, the first one that we had in September, I was kind of kneeling behind all of the kids and looking at them, and you get sort of overwhelmed with a couple of things. The first thing, knowing that for some of these kids, this will be the only time they experience a First Friday Mass. And for some of those students, it was the first time they had experienced that. And it was overwhelming to them, and they really respond. And when Monsignor is saying that Mass, and they are all just wide-eyed staring at everything he does and everything he says, and it can be a little overwhelming. It's pretty beautiful.
You mentioned that you and Monsignor John have the same vision as far as your Catholic identity. I think if you're outside of the Catholic world, you might think it's a Catholic school. Right. Why would they have any questions about their Catholic identity? But I think that nationwide there is inconsistency as far as the sort of how orthodox a school that is a Catholic school is. I mean, this is at the level of, you know, youth in the, you know, middle school, lower school, but as in colleges as well. So how do you sort of see St. Joseph's in that kind of, you know, spectrum?
Well, this is the third school that I've been at. I've been in a school in Dallas, and I was up in D.C. for 10 years. And then down here in Bryan College Station. So you're right. I mean, there are amazing inconsistencies in what is actually called a Catholic school. And you do find yourself sometimes putting quotes around Catholic when you're talking about a school. And to me, it's so great about St. Joe's is there's no quotes around our understanding of Catholicism. And I've said this before, but when you walk into a school, especially a Catholic school, you don't want the things hanging on the wall to be what defines the school. And I love the fact that you walk in and we have quotes from the Holy Father, and we do have statues of the Blessed Mother, and we have crucifixes and all that, and we have holy water in all the classrooms, and that's great. But if that's all we're doing, then that's not enough. And to be a Catholic school, it's not about those things, and it's not about teaching religion every day, although that's great, and it's such an important part of our curriculum. Catholicism, but it has to be pervasive in all that we do. It has to be in all of the classrooms. You have to be in a science class and be able to discuss the morality of whatever it is that whatever controversial subject that they're discussing, or even introduce the fact that there is a moral question in some of those sciences that they're studying. And your English, the most, I'm an English major from the University of Dallas, so you're not going to be surprised by this, but truly English, I think, is the most effective way of understanding Christ, and the English teachers are right in line with that. So we do have all the other things. We have reconciliation twice a week. We have adoration after Mass, after every Mass, and we have a living rosary, we have a St. Joseph's altar, we have prayers before all of the athletic competitions, and we have all of that, so that there is not a moment when you're in there that you're not just breathing in this culture of Catholicism.
Well, and I have to say a big thank you for that myself, Jennifer, because I've had children in and out of the school system for over 18 years, and it has benefited our family in such a deep spiritual way, and I can see just a beautiful crescendo of the Catholic identity in the school throughout the years. And last year she did something really awesome, so I'm going to brag on her a little bit. She started the St. Joseph altar, which as a convert, it was years before I knew of such a thing with my Italian friends, and attended one and thought it was fabulous. But what y'all did, Patty, I know you participated in that too. It was beautiful. Are y'all planning on doing that again this year?
Yes, we are. Absolutely.
And that's around the Feast of St. Joseph, and is it January, right?
It's sorry.
Oh, no, it's in March, actually, but we begin a novena, a 9-week novena to St. Joseph, leading up to the St. Joseph altar.
Well, there may actually be some Catholics out there who haven't had much exposure to Italians, and so maybe they didn't venture over to Brian, but they might not know what the St. Joseph altar is. So, Patty, could you just explain a little bit about what it is?
Well, it was new to me, too. I'm an Irish Catholic from the Midwest, so I had never attended a St. Joseph altar until we did ours at the school. And it's a tradition that came over from Sicily, and it recognizes and gives thanks to St. Joseph for the blessings that he gave the farmers in their drought in Sicily. And they prayed that if the drought would end and their harvest would be good, that they would give thanks and build an altar and give thanks to God and to St. Joseph. So they carried that tradition over to the United States. And there are several families in this area that do this altar. And the fava beans are real important, and the designation of people to represent different saints. And there's a mass involved, and Jennifer?
And everything has some sort of subtext to it. So the altar itself is 3-tiered to represent the Trinity. The fava beans, and I still have mine in my purse, but you carry it around, and the idea behind the fava bean is that it was what grew during the drought. So if you carry them around, and then you'll never be without money. That's supposed to be the idea behind that. And we had Monsignor bless them. And when you come into the altar, it's covered in very specific things. So you have different pastries that represent the different saints. So you have 12 saints that represent the apostles. And in the tradition is that you choose students or families, we're choosing students obviously, that have had some sort of difficulty in their lives. And then they choose a saint that represents their having overcome that difficulty. And then that saint is represented on the altar. And it just goes on and on and on. I mean, there's every tiny little thing you do has some sort of meaning behind it, and it all goes back to this just love of the intercession of Saint Joseph with Christ in helping them with this drought.
Well, it sounds like it's not only a beautiful, act of veneration, but I think it sounds like it was a great learning opportunity for some of these students to maybe research some saints and, connect with them in a way that they might not have otherwise.
That's right. And it was also a great way for us to bring together the parishes in the community because, St. Joseph is a parish school, but it feeds 5 different parishes. So we were able to bring in some of the families from the other parishes, specifically St. Anthony's, who has such a strong and beautiful Italian culture. And some of the people from St. Anthony's came over and taught the students, went into the theology classes and explained to them all the meaning behind the different cookies and why it is that you serve spaghetti without meat. And then those women and men were so gracious. They came in and during spring break, our students came in and they made the cookies at our campus in the cafeteria that we served to the students. And we also, the night before, had a rosary, the Italian rosary, which is also an important part. And it's sung, it's kind of chanted. Right. And that was a really important part of the feast day as well.
Well, you mentioned that, St. Joseph's School is not just to serve St. Joseph Parish, it's actually to serve the whole community, because it is the only Catholic school within a pretty big...
About 120 miles.
So can you tell us a little bit about the makeup of the student body? What percentage is Catholic? What percentage, maybe are getting tuition assistance? And I know that you recently started a tuition assistance program. So could you talk a little bit about the student body and that sort of thing?
Right. We have right now 401 students in K through 12. If you include the Eagle's Nest, it puts us up about 570 students. But just for the K through 12, we have 401, and they do come from all of the parishes in this area and then 2 outside of the area. The majority of them do come from St. Joseph's and then St. Mary's, Thomas Aquinas. We have a few from St. Teresa's and several from St. Anthony's as well. Over 90% of our students are Catholic. We do have a few non-Catholics, which is great. I mean, the culture is comprised of all sorts of different thoughts, and we love that. We do have a financial aid program that is based. We outsource it, actually. So if it's something you're interested in, you can contact the main office and talk with my secretary, who can give you some information about it. But it's based solely on financial need. So it has nothing to do with any sort of merit. It's all just financial need.
Well, I want to switch gears a little bit, because as a parent who has kids in Catholic school too, and I've homeschooled, I've had public school, and I've had Catholic school, and I'm so happy to say we are very at home in Catholic school. But Jennifer, I think what is really informative for people to know is talk about the type of curriculum. I mean, the classical curriculum is very attractive to me, but if you could tell us a little bit more about that, starting with elementary and on up through.
Sure. The classical curriculum it's easy to say, but it's not so easy to define. I think some people use that word a lot, but don't exactly know what it means. And I think that having our K through 12 gives us the ability to truly have a classical curriculum. And what that means is that it's a 3-prong approach to education, and it starts with grammar, and that doesn't mean just English grammar, but grammar is what you do when you're younger, when you're in the lower grades. And basically, the way I define it is it's the vocabulary of education. It's when you learn your vocabulary, and whether that's your math facts or your definitions of words, spelling, and it's a bunch of memorization. And then when you move more towards 5th, 6th, 7th grade, depending on the development of that class, you move more into the logic stage. So you take your grammar, you take the vocabulary of your education, and you learn how to compartmentalize it and learn how to be able to start to formulate an argument, but you're still kind of having your hands held a little bit. And then once you move past that, you move into what's called the rhetoric stage. And the rhetoric stage is, to me, they're all important, but that rhetoric stage is the most important part, and that's the high school stage. It's the last time that you really have the ability developmentally to take all of the vocabulary that you've learned and being able to compartmentalize it to formulate an argument to defend something. And in a Catholic school, it's so important to us to be able to teach these students how to defend their faith, but to defend their faith in all aspects, that when you're in a science class or in a math class or in a history class, that you understand already the history, the vocabulary, you have the facts at your disposal, and then you've been able to compartmentalize them into your arguments, and then you're able to make a sound argument. And that is what a classical education is. And it also is comprised of, obviously, Latin is an important part of that, but there's a way of thinking that comes from Latin that's important to being able to defend your faith as well. And the theology classes are just as vital to all of that. But a classical education gives you the vocabulary to be able to synthesize an argument and then defend your argument.
I just want to take a moment to say the phone number. If anyone out there is listening that would like to ask a question about Catholic education or St. Joseph's School in particular, please do call. The phone number is 85-LOVE-RED-C, 855-683-7332. Now, when you're talking, Jennifer, about making an argument and that sort of thing, I think that perhaps some people who may have considered Catholic education but are concerned that maybe their kids are going to feel too sheltered, like that they've been protected too much from the arguments that they're going to face in the world, and that they'll just get to college and be like totally shell shocked, right? Because they've had this, kind of sheltered existence in Catholic school. Do you really feel that is an issue, or what do you do at this school in order to try to get them exposure to these different ideas that they're going to face in the wider culture?
I understand and have heard that argument before. I think is exactly the opposite. However, I think that in a school like St. Joseph's, and again, I don't think this happens in every Catholic school, but a school like St. Joseph, those arguments are hit straight on. So the conversation about Catholic doctrine happens from the minute they walk into that classroom. So there are conversations happening about abortion, about all the life issues, about birth control. Those things and it's being presented to them through the lens of truth. So then they're able to have the real information given to them. They're able to debate. The older they are, you have to be age appropriate. There's optimal time for things. We're not talking about abortion in 2nd or 3rd grade, but there's the ability for them to be able to have these conversations in a controlled environment. And it's still a school. They're still kids that are still trying to grow, and they're making decisions. They're not always making the right decisions, but they're in an environment that's safe, that we can help them understand how to make better decisions.
And I can give a real world example for you, Megan, because my son Thomas has been in that school system most of his life. He's a senior this year. And I would say that instead of building sheep, as some might think, they're building warriors for Christ, true church militant. I've seen that in him and his ability in his brief stint in public school. He was out there defending the faith in a very beautiful way. So I've seen the fruits of it in a student, and that being my son.
Well, great. So can you tell us, Patty, maybe you can tell us a little bit about what are the sort of testing requirements that they have at the school? What are they going to expect as far as standardization? Because, and they have, tax tests and STAR tests and all that sort of thing in the public school. Is that something that y'all also have, or do you have a different structure for sort of making, standard requirements? As far
Our students do take standardized tests. They take the Iowa standardized test, and I think, was it the freshman that just took the Ready Step? The 8th graders, 7th and 8th graders, is it the Iowa that they take as well? Help me out here.
Right. Yeah. No, they take the ITBS from 12th grade to 8th grade. So the ITBS is
from 12th grade?
I'm sorry, from kindergarten. Sorry, to 8th grade. Sorry. Okay. And the ITBS test is it's a standardized test that I took when I was in Catholic schools back, way back when. And it's a great test for us to use because we look at it and we're able to see what it is that we need to do to improve our curriculum. And an example of that is a couple years ago when I first came on, we were looking at their ITBS scores in the 5th, 6th, and 7th grade for grammar, and they were not as high as I would like them to be. So we introduced a more comprehensive grammar program that now the kids have grammar every single day in the middle school, which was a direct result of what we were seeing from the ITBS. And when they move on to 9th grade, there is definitely enough studies that show that you have to keep a standardized test in their imagination every single year so that when they get to the SATs, there's a better chance of them doing really well, which is increasing their chances of getting into the colleges that they want. So we do a Ready Step test for 9th grade, which is we call it a baby pre-SAT. So the 9th graders take Ready Step. The 10th and 11th grade take the PSAT, and there is a graduation requirement of taking the ACT and the SAT. Two reasons for that. One, we need to have one more test that we use as benchmarks for us and for our developing of the curriculum. But they also, the SAT and the ACT are such different tests from each other that it's important to me that they take both of them so they can see which one they do better on, and then they concentrate on whichever one they did better, and then it increases their chances of getting into the school that they want.
And how have you seen college placement going? Like, what percentage of your students go on to college, and what kind of colleges do they end up going to? Can you give us some information about that?
Sure. In the last couple of years, we've had 100%, our graduation rate is 100%. We have 100% acceptance rate into college. They don't all go to college. We have several who go on to the military, but they're all getting into the colleges that they want to go to. And they're mostly going to ones that you would expect. They're going to A&M. We have a few who go to the University of Dallas. We had a couple years ago who went up to South Carolina. But the majority of our students do get into and attend A&M.
And we do have a couple of alums that just graduated from Notre Dame.
That's what I was going to say. So proud of those kids.
Sure.
Really awesome.
And one of them's going on to law school at St. Thomas, I think it is, in St. Paul, Minnesota. So,
and I believe Elliot Pierce is now working in Dallas. Really glad to be back in Texas too.
Absolutely. And we've had a couple go into the military academy, the Air Force Academy, the Naval Academy. So
that's right. One of Lee's classmates, I think, is going to graduate this year. Mike Rathbone from West Point.
Oh, great!
Yeah,
right.
Yeah. Okay, I want to back up a little bit and ask you then about the faculty and those requirements, because those have really, I've watched them really change over the years. Jennifer, if you can talk to us about the faculty and their requirements.
I mean, because you know that people are out there thinking of like nuns and black habits with long rulers. You know that. Well, if you ever see Catholic school in the movies, right?
Sure.
That's what it is, right?
Sure.
Mean nuns with rulers. So can you kind of set the record straight a little there?
Sure. Well, the teachers, in order to teach in a Catholic school, the requirements are not very much. And just to come into a Catholic school, really all you need is a bachelor's with a certain number of hours in the area that you want to teach. But just like that's the requirement to be eligible to play through TAPS is only requiring, they don't require very much out of TAPS. We require more because what I want is for our student athletes, for our students, and for our teachers to be the best they possibly can be. So I do require them to either have certification, be working on their certification, have a master's, or be working on their master's. So we do have several teachers from the University of Dallas. I'm from the University of Dallas, so that kind of feeds itself a little bit, I think. But our teachers, we have some that are young that I really love because they have so much energy, and boy, do you need energy to be a teacher. And I also like the idea that we can get them young and I can start to form them into the sort of teacher that I think is the right teacher to have at a Catholic school.
You mentioned student athletes, and that's something that we haven't talked much about yet, is the athletics program. I know that, athletics is a big deal for a lot of families, and there might be some concern that going to a small school like St. Joe's, to a parochial school, that they wouldn't have athletic opportunities that they would at the larger high schools and things like that. Can you talk a little bit about the athletics program?
Sure. I thought the same thing. I came from a school up in D.C. where we had 1,400 students in the high school, and we were a high-profile athletic school. We were on ESPN all the time, and so I thought coming down here that it was going to change drastically, and that the sports might be important, but they weren't necessarily going to be, as good as what I used to experience. I could not be more wrong. I think that what's happening at a school like St. Joe's is that we have over 90% of our kids play sports, and out of that 90%, over 90% play more than one sport. So I think that they have more opportunity when they come to some place like this to play as many sports as they want. And, the school I was at previously, the coaches would not let the kids play different sports because it changes your body type to go from football or basketball or whatever. And they didn't want them to get hurt. Here, the coaches all work together in order to encourage them to play, because for them, I think they truly understand, and this comes directly from our athletic director, who's very good. And his idea is that it is mind, body, and spirit. That the athletics is an integral part, but it is a part of the formation of the souls of the students. And I've heard him say that to parents over and over again. And he definitely puts their spiritual side and their academic side first. We started a tutoring program that he mans almost every day, that if you have below an 80 in any of your classes, you have to go to this tutoring every morning from 7 to 7:55, until your grades get above an 80, because his thought was that his athletes have to be better than 70. They have to be at least 80%. So he requires A's and B's out of all of his kids to play. And if they don't come to tutoring, he's the first one to bench them. He will take away playing time from them.
One of the things I've kind of noticed as well by having a son in the programs there too is that sports kind of mirrors life with the difficulties and hardships. And, we had a losing season last year and 2 years ago in football. And I noticed how it really starts to make the kids dig down deep, and we go with our faith. And it's a kind of a virtue-driven program. I mean, that's been my experience in my own home. But also I want to put a little plug in that you can hear our football games on KEDC.
Right.
Very excited. We have the last 2 district games, one here on Friday night at home.
Right.
Very exciting. Senior night. I'm whoop whoop. Go Thomas. And then Brazos Christian, the big game. So we're hoping to get a lot of St. Joe's people come out to the Brazos Christian game. It's a week from Friday.
Right.
So is that the big rivalry, Brazos Christian? It's like Catholics against Protestants fighting out the Reformation right there on the gridiron?
It is our biggest rivalry. And it's funny. I just had the pleasure of meeting with the headmaster at Brazos Christian a couple weeks ago. And he's a lovely, lovely man. And we had a very good conversation. And it was interesting. We did talk about sports a little bit, and it was funny because we're having such a great season, knock wood, that we continue with that. But we're having a very, very good football season, and so are they. But what we talked about more was that we are mirroring each other, that our growth is happening in the same exact way. Our classes are growing, the same exact classes are growing in the same way. And with the troubles that come with trying to figure out what the next step is, there's also the joy in knowing that we're able to serve all of our people correctly. And he felt the same exact way. So even though there's definitely a rivalry between the 2 schools, I couldn't be more supportive of what they're doing. And I know he feels the same way about what we're doing.
Yeah, just from what I've seen over the years, it's one of those really great, healthy rivalries where you do want the best for the other person, but we really hope that we come out on top.
Right. No, that's true. No, I'm not going to say I don't want to win. But
Right.
Yeah, it's the Eagles versus the Eagles. So
that's right.
Whose eagle is stronger?
I know. We have to say, go St. Joe's.
Right.
Fly, eagle, fly.
Right.
So one thing I would like to ask a little bit about is money. I know that there may be many people who would dream of having a Catholic education for their children, but they just don't think that they can afford it. So can you talk to us a little bit about, how much does it cost and what the helps are that are in place if you can't afford it?
Sure. There's different pricing that starts from kindergarten up through, kindergarten is not as expensive as 12th grade, obviously. And there is different rates for parishioners and then non-parishioners. So if you're a parishioner in any registered in any Catholic church in this area, then you automatically get a pretty significant discount. And this last year, we did something a little bit differently with our early bird. We made a pretty significant change in registering early versus registering late. And there's all kinds of payment plans. You can pay by semester, which gives you a discount. You can pay all for the whole year. That also gives you a discount. Or you can pay monthly on a 10, 11, or 12 month. So we try to really work with the families because as much as we are a college prep school, we are also a parish school. And I know who we are serving. And I will always make it possible as much as I can for anybody who wants a Catholic education to receive one. Obviously there's a difference between a public school and a private school. We do not get government funds that come into our school. So there's a little bit of tweaking here and there that we have to do to try to figure out how to make sure that we can keep the pricing low enough for the parishioners and the non-parishioners, but still be able to pay the teachers.
Which is a beautiful segue to ask questions about spring fling. I'm so excited. Last year was one of the most successful I've seen in so long, Patty. Can you tell us about what's coming up, what's around the corner, and what I can do to help you?
Oh, absolutely. I was just talking to Jennifer about, I can see a parent could do this for us and do this for us. Spring Fling is our biggest fundraiser of the year. And of course, as Jennifer said, we don't take any tax, we don't get any tax revenue. So fundraising is very important to us because we want to be able to let everyone get a Catholic education if they can. So we do a lot of grant writing, and the Spring Fling is our big party in the spring, and it comes the Saturday before Lent begins. So it's our Mardi Gras theme. Last year we served 630 people at the Expo Center, and we raised right around $100,000 just over 100,000. So our goal this year is to raise 120,000, bring 700 people in. It's on March 1st out at the Expo Center, and you can go to the website and find out how to buy a table. If you want to get involved in helping out, we have a band, the Texas Unlimited Band. Everyone loves them. And
it was so much fun. I went last year, and the band was great. And then I have to add that the Catholic family identity is something I think that if you were only in that system that you appreciate and love, but when you get out of that system, boy, do you appreciate and love it. As a parent, people will say, well, what's the difference? Why would you choose that? And I just want to say that the environment, you say it's a Christian environment. Well, what does that mean? Well, that means to me and our family has been a very positive, not negative, not a lot of downsides, but more positive, uplifting. Just, it's the whole looking up of the world instead of looking kind of down of what the reality can be at times. But it really incubates your kids to look up and be positive because there's a lot of negative. But I really feel like that my personal experience with my family has been, it's a much more positive environment overall because the love of the teachers we have this year, I have a 3rd grader and a 5th grader. Kudos. They're awesome teachers, just full of love for these kids. And it's infectious.
Right.
That positiveness is infectious. And my children my little ones having just come from public school are their eyes are wide open going, wow, everybody's so nice. And I attribute that, kids are going to be kids wherever you are, but they can flourish in a more positive environment. And just between the masses and just the religious education, it's been such a positive thing for our family. And the best thing for me is driving home from school in the afternoons when they break out in one of the hymns from Mass. I love that.
I was going to say, Pam, that because I'm a parent as well, and that's I got a job at St. Joseph when my kids started going there. Our oldest one was in 7th grade when we started, and we started our youngest one in kindergarten. And just the conversations that having them at St. Joseph Catholic School sparks at home, that, having them, we never came home and talked about, what'd you think of that sermon today? That just doesn't happen anywhere else. And so my husband and I feel very blessed, and we feel very fortunate that we have been able to keep them there. And that what we'd like to share is that Catholic education is an investment. And just like you may save for your college investment, we think it's important to save and make that investment earlier. That if you look at it that way, that you're investing in your child's future, not just when they get out of high school, but, in their formative years.
I think what you're trying to say, it's an eternal investment, which, yes, I have really seen that. And just the kind of character that has the kids can develop because they're exposed, given their nature, their disposition, they can really flourish and become great character. And it is an eternal investment, in my opinion.
Well, and I think there may be a misconception that every family that attends St. Joseph Catholic School or any other Catholic school or private school are rich, upper class, have a perfect family, and that's just not true. We're all human. We all have things in our past, or we may have difficulties at home, but St. Joseph is a safe environment to come where people do care about you, and you go to Mass twice a week. You get the body of Christ twice a week, and it's amazing to me to see the lineup of children after Mass that are in line for reconciliation. To me, that are the ones that stay in adoration, whether they're Catholic or not, and kneeling before the Blessed Sacrament. That's just awesome to me.
Well, that really is a beautiful image to end on, I think. We just have a few more seconds left here, but if you could just give us the information about how the best way to learn more about St. Joseph's School, to contact y'all if you're interested in learning more or attending, give us that information, please.
Sure. Please come by the school anytime. We have 2 campuses, and there's always somebody there who is just so proud to share about the school. If you want to call, it's 979-822-6641, and you can, my secretary, Margaret Tejan, who actually runs the school, she's the best person I know, can find me or Blake Evans, who is the vice principal, or Jim Reich, who's the dean of students, or Patty Blazek, and we can set up an appointment. We're happy to talk to you. You can go online and email us. All of our email addresses are online as well.
Okay, well, great. Thank you so much, Jennifer and Patty, for being here. It's been wonderful to learn more about the school. And thank you, Pam, for being here as well. Always a pleasure to have you. I hope you'll join us next week. Deacons Andy Perrone, Dave Mays, and Ted Baker will be here along with Dan Robertson to talk about prison ministry. I hope you have a blessed feast of All Saints and All Souls. And until next time, when choosing between the values of heaven and the world, always round up. Bye now.